When did it become cool to celebrate someone's assassination? When did it become okay to laugh at someone's demise, especially when they are killed in the most public and distressing fashion? And I guess it's okay to victim blame as long as that victim is on a certain side of the political aisle. As many of you already know, conservative commentator Charlie Kirk was assassinated yesterday in Utah. He was doing what he loves to do best, speaking to college students and members of the public. I want to start off by expressing my condolences to the Kirk family, his wife and children especially. I don't know where you all were when you got the news, but I remember my phone going off and a friend of mine back home said, "Did you see that Charlie Kirk was shot?" And my first question was, "Is he dead?" And my friend was like, "Not sure." And I immediately went online, and that's when I saw that President Trump had confirmed that Charlie Kirk had indeed passed away. Minutes later, someone sent me a video of the shooting, and I was not prepared. I thought that it was just going to be a bunch of people running and screaming, and it was that, but it was the actual moment that he was hit. And I wish I can unsee it. I wish I could unsee it. It was that traumatizing for me. So I know that, as human beings, we have a natural curiosity about certain things, and a lot of us are interested in the macabre. But if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and don't even look at it. And I know I cannot control you, but if you can, don't even share it. I didn't share it. I deleted it. It was just that upsetting. It was that sick to me. Let me just go into some notes here, because yesterday they had several persons of interest. The FBI was talking to several persons of interest, but they later let them go. But now the FBI has released surveillance footage of a man who is wearing a baseball cap, and I'll put it on the screen. Someone who is now a person of interest. Again, this was surveillance footage around the area, and they want to talk to this person to question them about this assassination. Also, ABC News reported today that its sources said that there was ammunition and a rifle found that had engraved on it some trans messages or messages about trans issues and anti-fascist ideology. So they're now reviewing surveillance footage around the area, and they've now released this video, or rather still images of this person of interest. So they're now asking for the public's help in determining who this individual is. So President Trump released a video message on his platform following Charlie Kirk's shooting or assassination. And for those of you who don't know, Charlie Kirk was extremely instrumental in helping to push the youth vote for Donald Trump. Charlie Kirk is only 31 years old. Sometimes I think that he's older. I always thought he was in his 40s for some reason. So just take a listen to what Donald Trump had to say, because naturally he owes a great debt of gratitude to Kirk's work. Let's take a listen.
To my great fellow Americans, I am filled with grief and anger at the heinous assassination of Charlie Kirk on a college campus in Utah. Charlie inspired millions, and tonight all who knew him and loved him are united in shock and horror. Charlie was a patriot who devoted his life to the cause of open debate and the country that he loved so much, the United States of America. He fought for liberty, democracy, justice, and the American people. He's a martyr for truth and freedom, and there's never been anyone who was so respected by youth. Charlie was also a man of deep, deep faith, and we take comfort in the knowledge that he is now at peace with God in heaven. Our prayers are with his wife, Erica, the two young, beloved children, and his entire family, who he loved more than anything in the world. We ask God to watch over them in this terrible hour of heartache and pain. This is a dark moment for America. Charlie Kirk traveled the nation, joyfully engaging with everyone interested in good faith debate. His mission was to bring young people into the political process, which he did better than anybody ever, to share his love of country and to spread the simple words of common sense. On campuses nationwide, he championed his ideas with courage, logic, humor, and grace. It's long past time for all Americans and the media to confront the fact that violence and murder are the tragic consequence of demonizing those with whom you disagree day after day, year after year, in the most hateful and despicable way possible. For years, those on the radical left have compared wonderful Americans like Charlie to Nazis and the world's worst mass murderers and criminals. This kind of rhetoric is directly responsible for the terrorism that we're seeing in our country today, and it must stop right now. My administration will find each and every one of those who contributed to this atrocity and to other political violence, including the organizations that fund it and support it, as well as those who go after our judges, law enforcement officials, and everyone else who brings order to our country.
You know, I would imagine that this was very deeply personal for Donald Trump for many reasons. Like I said before, Charlie Kirk was very instrumental in pushing or driving that youth vote for him to be reelected. They seem to have had a great rapport. But more than that, I think it's very personal for him because he himself survived an assassination attempt in Pennsylvania in June last year. And then I believe FBI agents thwarted another attempted assassination attempt. So he knows firsthand what that feels like, having been struck in his ear during his assassination attempt. You know, it's funny. On Sunday, I was scrolling through YouTube, Instagram. I was just scrolling, just checking out everything. And I came across one of Charlie Kirk's videos. It was a short where he was debating some college students. And I actually was applauding in my head his calm during the interaction, because sometimes, and I've seen several of his videos over the years, sometimes people would get really, really nasty, pointing in his face. And I always applauded the fact that at the end he would always shake their hands or, you know, try to have a good conversation going. And that's something you don't see happening a lot. And I really respected that aspect of him. I've had my issues with some of the things that he said in the past. I don't feel the need to go into them right now in this moment. Just because I want to keep the focus on the fact that this man was assassinated and his family is distraught and reeling from this. But I really appreciated him going on college campuses, because the reality is sometimes the college campuses are incubators for some radical thinking, and they don't listen to an opposing viewpoint. And this is nothing new. Even from when I was in college, I remember sitting in certain history classes or just whatever class. And sometimes you get into talking about social issues or politics. And I would see how anybody who would present themselves as an open-minded person or someone who was willing to listen, and I was one of those people, you're ostracized. You're like, they treat you like trash. And I loved, again, the fact that he would go there and yes, sometimes they were very controversial topics, but it was like it was challenging the status quo. And I really respected that. I remember him being on California Governor Gavin Newsom's podcast just a few months ago, actually. What month were we in? September? So it was a few months ago, maybe 5 or 6 months ago. He was just talking about the fact that there are certain politicians who are unwilling to go and have a seat at the enemy's table, so to speak, to have that dialogue going. They prefer to be in their own little silos. And it's something that I talk about all the time on this platform. Just so you know, too, Charlie Kirk is being mourned by a lot of conservative commentators. Candace Owens, whom he has had a relationship with, a professional relationship, let me be very clear. She said she just can't even process this, because I can only imagine. And honestly, I was just thinking too, I think a lot of these commentators, conservative commentators, really do need to be careful. I think he had some security, but it wasn't a lot of security the day that he was assassinated. But I think a lot of them need to be especially careful. Sometimes they go and they sit in the hot seat and they get a lot of verbal abuse from the people who are there to see them. But now it seems like it's crossing over into this physical violence. And that's something I think I even mentioned when I did a video after Donald Trump's attempted assassination. I mentioned the fact that I felt like this was just going to get worse. And to be fair, it's not just Republicans, conservatives who have felt the wrath of the public and been attacked. It's happened as well on the Democratic side, but he's absolutely right. You know, there's something to be said about going and sitting at the, I hate to say it like this, but the enemy's table, or sitting and talking with people who think differently from you. And to Charlie's credit, he really knew how to draw a crowd. The people who showed up at Utah Valley University weren't just college students, they were members of the public. And he really grew his platform and grew those meetups in a major way. When he first started, and I'll see if I can find a photo, it might be a little old, but he would just set up like a little table and chair and have his cardboard placard and just tell, say something provocative and have people come in there and challenging him. And I thought it was actually quite brilliant because, while there are people who would get upset and they'd walk away from that moment, there are folks too whose mind you could see the wheels turning in their head, and they were at least exposed to a different side or a different way of thinking, something that they weren't getting on college campuses. Donald Trump, by the way, said he's going to award Charlie Kirk with the Presidential Medal of Freedom posthumously. And I think this is going to make him somewhat of a martyr. And you've heard it said 1,000,001 times. I think, shutting people up, you should shut them up with your words, not with your violence. You don't like what he says, strengthen your argument. Come back at him that way, because obviously he was willing to come and engage with anybody. But to take him out like this, you're only going to create more Charlie Kirks, to be honest with you. I don't know what the meaning of that was, or what they did that for. All you did was strip two innocent children of their father and strip a wife of her husband. I think it's disgusting. And like I said earlier, and I don't want this video to be too long, but I really don't like the celebrations across social media when things like this happen. And it typically happens towards conservative politicians. You cannot like someone. That's fine. You have every right to not like someone's politics. You might not like what he has to say. That is your right. I've had my issues as well. But you don't have the right to take someone's life, because there's no bringing that person back. And just to see so many people, and I've seen a lot of Black folks too, saying, I'm just minding my DEI business, or coming in the comment section and saying, so anyway, what y'all cooking for dinner and that sort of stuff. I think it's just so dismissive and so wrong. And these are people who ordinarily, outside of this Charlie Kirk assassination, would be like, I'm a Christian, or I'm a good person, or I have empathy. And all of a sudden they're showing none of that when they're talking about this situation. And regardless of his pronouncements in the past regarding empathy, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with it, if you are truly an empathetic person, if you're a good person, it doesn't matter what he said. His words shouldn't change who you are. If that's who you are, nobody could change that. No matter if they say, I don't want your empathy, no matter if they say, I don't believe in empathy or whatever. If you believe in empathy and you are an empathetic person, that wouldn't change that. So it's been very, very disgusting to see. I was on Threads this morning and a lady posted something. Let me see if I screenshot it, because she was talking, you know what? I don't need to read that verbatim. But anyway, she was just talking about the fact that she had a coworker who was fired, or probably about to be fired, because of the comments that they made online. I'll just read it. She says, some of your opinions regarding Charlie Kirk's passing will increase the unemployment rate. A former coworker got escorted off property after being with HR for the last 45 minutes. His work bestie received a text from him saying that someone screenshot his comments on Facebook and it may cost him his job. He's been placed on unpaid leave until further review, but we all know what that means. Y'all be safe out there. And someone says, well, this is why you aren't friends on social media with coworkers, which I 100% agree with, to be honest with you. And we see Matthew Dowd, who's a political analyst for MSNBC, was fired for his comments after the assassination. He wasn't celebrating, but he basically was saying that, Charlie's words had real life consequences for him and it took his life. That is a form of victim blaming. And you see, this is my problem. You cannot pick and choose your victim. You cannot pick and choose who you're okay with not victim blaming and who you think is acceptable to blame the victim when they meet their demise in that way. The reality is the person who is responsible right now is not Charlie or his words or the gun. It's the shooter. Charlie could talk all he wants, but you make that decision to shoot someone. And so I think the blame should be definitely placed on who's responsible. this shooter who they're looking for. And so it's not a good feeling. And I know a lot of you will be uncomfortable with that. I know a lot of you will say, well, you say certain things and that's what's going to happen. But the reality is you don't get to take someone's life over words. You don't. Now, y'all may say that's not the way life works. Well, in my world, I don't care what you say to me. I don't feel inclined. And I've had some nasty things said to me over the years. And I'm not even talking about online. But I don't feel the need to go and pick up a gun and kill someone. Y'all need to mature and get your mind right. We've had a long history of politicians and activists, community activists being assassinated, killed to silence discourse. And that's sickening to me. Anybody who is celebrating this is sickening to me. And you have to be so careful with that little tongue in your mouth, because what you put out there, you get back. You got to be so careful. This was extremely triggering for me because I think I've shared with you all. I've never shared, the who, but I've had family members who have been murdered. And let me tell you something. It is so devastating to the family. I am telling you, it is extremely devastating to the family. And I am so happy, so fortunate that my loved ones' videos and photos weren't circulated, because it's like you just killing me all over again. So I don't take kindly to people making flippant remarks and dismissive statements and blaming of the victim. I don't take kindly to that. I don't. And I wish people would just stop. Just stop it. Anyway, drop your comments down below. I didn't do a video yesterday because I literally was just processing it. And after I saw that video, I felt like I wanted to throw up. I had a real reaction to that video where I just wanted to vomit. It was just sick to me. And I could never see myself online celebrating someone's demise. No, hell no. Drop your comments down below. We'll talk in another video. Bye.